Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So today I have my oldest two boys in the kitchen with me and we are having Taco Tuesday. So I've always kind of wanted to bring them in the kitchen. It is always my goal and my mission to have them in the kitchen and make sure that they are learning how to cook and that they're going to be helpful for their wives and that they know how to get around the kitchen and not waiting on someone to cook a meal for them. So here you have that are working the taco meat is my oldest Caleb, and we're just having a talking session. Caleb is working the taco meat. Aaron's over there making, chopping the onions for me. And here I am kind of making a dish that they all really love, and that is homemade Spanish rice, which is very easy to make. You saw that I was pouring the oil into the pan, and it's just vegetable oil because this recipe was taught to me over a decade ago by the sweetest little Spanish woman that I used to work with. And I'm just going to take about 4 to 5 scoops of rice, cups of rice, and put it in that because I want to saute that down a little bit and get that kind of a little bit more translucent and kind of just that nuttiness out of the rice and kind of brown it a little bit and get it going. And everything that I need is right there next to the pot. So what I'm gonna do is cut up a little bit of jalapenos and get those in the pan. We like a little bit of heat with our food, so I'm gonna cut those jalapenos up. There I'm pulling out my knife, which I absolutely love. I pull the guard off because sometimes I get nicked when I put my hand in the drawer to pull knives out. So here I'm gonna cut up a fresh jalapeno, which I kind of keep these on hand all the time in the house because my oldest standing next to me there even loves them raw on different pizzas or just he likes them with his food. I don't know, when I was pregnant I was the jalapeno girl, literally, because I ate jalapenos throughout my pregnancy. So my grandmother had this old wives' tale that if I ate too many jalapenos, I'd burn the baby's eyes in the womb, which is hilarious to me, but I still ate those jalapenos. So I'm adding those jalapenos to the pot, and Aaron is actually coming over to add some chopped onions to the pot. Notice he kept them kind of on the longer end, not diced up. It's really a preference, but I kind of like mine a little bit longer so I can kind of see them. Sometimes my younger two will pick them out, but that's okay. The onions just add a little bit of flavor to the dish and it just makes it really, really yummy. And so I am switching with Caleb and kind of getting the meat worked a little bit better, and he's just chopping those jalapenos for me to add to that pan. And the taco meat, guys, I use a little bit of turkey and a little bit of beef, kind of half and half, but we're doing hard shell and we're doing corn tortillas tonight for our tacos. And so Caleb is cutting those jalapenos for me, and I'm telling him that we have to kind of get moving along so we can eat dinner, because we can kind of talk a lot while we're cooking, and that's okay because I just know that they're learning at the same time, and they're gonna remember this forever. So I'm telling them that let's get the food cooking so we can get dinner going. And but they're really helpful in the kitchen. I love having my boys in there with me. I was waiting on the pot to get a little bit hot, my yellow pot there. And my favorite seasoning mix for tacos is that Taco Bell seasoning. Isn't it crazy? I don't like eating at Taco Bell, but I like the seasoning mix that they put on the meat. And you can buy it in the grocery store. So I have about a half a pound of beef and I have about a pound of turkey that I'm working with. And so Caleb is actually adding those jalapenos there to some pinto beans, like some beans that I have in the pot because I like beans with like charro beans with my tacos. And so once again, there's that heat that we're adding to, the pot. And so Aaron is still cutting onions, and I'm telling him to move it along. But Caleb and I are actually going to switch again. I'm just trying to get the heat rolling and get this meat working, because they're learning. I mean, they're still in the kitchen. They like being in here. They like learning. They like figuring it out, because, their dad and I are going to one day release them into the world, and they have to be able to fend for themselves, cook for themselves, and not kill their roommates. So it's important to me that they are with me in the kitchen, and that they know what to do, and they know the steps, and they don't always need my guidance, and it's okay, because they're still learning. So that's fine with me. So I'm going back over here to my Spanish rice, and guys, I'm just moving this around because the heat is now kicked up on that pan. And that pan is actually one of my favorites because it's a really heavy pot, and it's a gift from my hubby, which I love that man. And so it cooks really well, so you have to watch it because it can burn really quickly. I'm noticing that I need just a little bit more rice. I'm feeding 4 boys here, and a husband and myself, so the grocery bill can be a bit much at times, but this will definitely carry over until tomorrow. So what I'm doing is just getting the rice nice and toasty and brown and nutty, and so it's kind of preparing it for its seasoning. So I'm seasoning that with a little bit of garlic powder, which is pretty good for me, using the garlic powder. I want to say I use a little bit of Zatarans in this, which you can find it in your grocery store, which is in a green container, like a green and red. So yeah, Aaron just handed me the Zatarans, and so you have to be very careful because Zatarans already has salt in it, so you don't want to over salt what you're doing. So there, I'm just kind of moving it around and getting this done. Aaron's adding some onions to the taco meat, which this is kind of one of his maybe 3rd or 4th lessons on cutting, and I think he's doing a pretty good job because it takes time, because I don't want them to hurt themselves. These are some pretty sharp knives, and but I do want them to have the experiences in the kitchen and not let the kitchen defeat them, or like I said, be waiting on a meal from someone to cook for them. So Caleb is trying to break it all up, and these are special times for me just because I get to spend those times with them in the kitchen, and we're talking, and girls will sometimes come up in these conversations, and friends will come up in these conversations, and relationships in school, and classes that are really easy or classes that are really hard. It just depends on what we're talking about at the moment, but I always definitely want them to know that we're available for them when they need us. So I added in that big tumbler of water, which is probably I had about 4 or 5 cups of rice, and I added in about 5 cups of water. And so there is my caldo, and it is really, really good. It is, I'll link it down below in the description box. It is what gives that rice that pink color. Usually I use like some little cubes. I want to say this is caldo de pollo with tomato. It's like a tomato and chicken bouillon. So here I added about a half of the tumbler. So 1.5 of this tumbler, maybe about, I said 6 cups of water to this to make sure that it can get steamed. So I've actually dropped the heat a little bit, and I'm adding in a little bit of pink Himalayan salt. And then I gave Caleb the job for that. See, we keep switching because I don't want these brothers to burn my food. So we're switching because my meat is coming to an end of being done over there, and I don't want Caleb to burn it because he gets to talking a whole lot and will forget about my food. So he's actually putting a little lid on it. I tell him to make sure it has a little air in the pot. See, because they're learning, you have to have a little air in it so that it doesn't boil over or act like an angry pot. So there, I move so fast in the kitchen that, they're like, Mama, how are you doing all of this all at once? just because of experience, guys. It's not, I've been cooking since I was 11 years old, and it's not anything new to me to cook this much or to maneuver myself around the kitchen quickly, especially when I'm trying to push out a meal. So they're actually, talking. That's why I say they do a lot of talking and then they forget that they're cooking. So I'm telling them, guys, come on and, don't forget about your food. And the other two are upstairs, my younger two. They would be just too much in the kitchen with those two in here with me. But I love sharing the space with them. And where you see how silly? Just look how silly. This kid, I tell you, they're both, see, they are clowns. So I switched places with Gerald just so he could, be in there with them, and he likes being in there with them. So he's doing the tortillas, which is kind of my choice tonight. As far as the corn tortillas, it's a little bit less fattening, and Aaron's just taking it all in. One fun fact about my kids is that they all wear glasses. Their dad and I wear glasses, and Caleb has on contacts. But he does wear glasses, and so it's 6 of us in glasses, which is, something funny, I think, to share with you guys. I've already taken the beans off of the heat, but there you see my peppers in there because, we just love spiciness. And Caleb is giving them a little bit of a stir. I didn't put a lot of seasoning in them because I don't want the food to just be too overly seasoned and too salty. So some things the seasoning is lacking thereof just because you don't want your plate to be too salty. And there is my Spanish rice. Doesn't that look so good? So they love this dish. I love this dish, and it's just so good. And so Gerald's setting the oven, and he's getting ready to put the taco shells in there and get ready to kind of just toast them a little bit. They just taste better when they're toasted versus just eating them straight out of the package. So he's just toasting up the corn tortillas a little bit. And now this is usually where we kind of congregate and just spending time with them and talking to them. So there you see my younger two. Cole right here with his back to the camera. Usually when he's so hungry, he doesn't breathe. Because he doesn't pause. You notice that he's just eating and not pausing. And, sometimes Austin is that way, or he has a lot more to say. So this is kind of where we take in our meals. This table actually seats 10. And Caleb was actually done with his meal, and he's just kind of talking and playing around with us and acting silly. It's never a dull moment at the dinner table with these boys, I promise. Never ever a dull moment. But we love spending time with them, and these are the moments that mean the most to us, that they're spending this time with us. Hey friends, if you missed my last video over my top 10 drugstore must-haves, make sure that you go back and give that a watch. I'm sharing some gems from the drugstore, and I think that you guys will really love some of the things that I'm sharing with you. Hope to see you again on my next video.